Hi, I watched Bad and Crazy and here's my review. Ryusuyol is a police officer who wants to climb the ladders and don't hesitate to turn a blind eye and even hide the truth to attain his goals. At least this is the case until he meets a mysterious and kind of crazy guy who calls himself K. First off, to get it out of the way, and because it's the most obvious, we have clearly in this drama a A+ casting. Honestly, all the actors in this are really incredible, and the two mains are really well-known actors by now, and also very good. Also, shout out to N from Vix in this drama. That I think it's the first time I actually really see him in a drama, and he really did a good job. I was really impressed by his performance in the drama. Really good. Also, while I'm on this, production-wise, very good. I mean, I think at this point there's nothing much bad to say about production in Korean dramas. Of course, exceptions always happen, but globally, in general, production in Korean dramas is always top-notch. So this is a genre I'm not really fond of, which is kind of policed crime investigation genre. It's really not my thing. But given the trailer, I was really hooked because of how crazy it seemed like it was going to be, and I think I can say it, the bromance between the two main characters. I really wanted to see it, because at least the trailer shows that they seem to be kind of two very different people who will have to, because of a reason, have to work together to get to the bottom of something and create a relationship between the two of them, like this. While this is actually true for this drama, it is also true that while the trailer depicts the drama, in my opinion, as something very crazy, the drama remains very classic to, I think, a crime and investigation drama. It's a lot less crazy than I thought it was going to be. So this was quite of a disappointment for me on this drama. And the fact that actually Kay is actually a lot less present than Lee Dong-wook's character, and yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that because I really wanted to see them as kind of real equals in this drama, but it's not really the case, so really big disappointment for me on this side. I feel like this drama doesn't have enough suspense at all. It does bring some suspense, sometimes it kind of makes you... It plays a bit with your head, I would say. It really makes you question a lot of things sometimes, but at the end of the day, you think, no, it's not possible, you know, because it has too big of implications, for example, for a main character or someone, and you know just deep down that it's not possible, that something like this would not happen to a main character or something like that, because it's way too big. So really the suspense isn't really there, and it's very... it's sad to say, but it's quite predictable of a story. Also, and this didn't stop me from enjoying the drama, it's the second part, I think, is a lot more messy than the first part, and I'm going to explain why in my spoil part. All this together, the fact that it is predictable, that I'm actually disappointed that it was not actually what I was waiting to watch, and that it was a lot less crazy and a lot more classic of a drama than I thought it was going to be, it didn't stop me from enjoying this drama. I actually had a good time. It took me just 1 or 2 episodes to really get invested into the story and the characters. And I was always very interested. I wanted to know what was going to happen. Even if it was predictable and sometimes very predictable, it was still able to keep you kind of on your seat of wanting to know or kind of make sure of things. Seeing how things were going to turn out to, for example, reveal a secret. Like the secret is predictable, but you want to know how they are going to get to this secret, this kind of thing. So it was always able to keep your attention, so it's a very good thing. And although, like I said, we see Kei's character a lot less than Ryusuyol, They still have a really good relationship, I think, in this drama. You can clearly see the evolution of their relationship throughout the drama, and it was really nice to have them both together on screen. First, I'm going to mention a few details before I actually address the elephant in the room, let's say. So first thing I want to mention is actually how I said there's not real suspense in this drama. They do manage to play a bit with your head towards the end with the psychiatrist. They kind of make you wonder, just like for Ryu Suyol, if he didn't do something bad in the past. But you know, at the end of the day, he is the main character, he is a policeman. I mean, there's no way they're going to make him a child murderer. You know, like he killed his father when he was small. There is no way, so you know it's not possible. So they try to play with your head, but you already know the outcome. The only thing in the end that's quite interesting is how they are going to get the truth, because it kind of gets really complicated for Ryu Suyol at some point against this psychiatrist. But clearly, the fact that he was the bad guy, the psychiatrist, was really... you could see it from a mile away. I mean, it was obvious that it was him. And to actually stay on the psychiatrist part, it's something that I actually didn't really enjoy in this drama is the portrayal of psychiatrists. All around the world, I feel like mental health is still very taboo in a lot of countries. Even here right now in France, it's still not that, you know. It's difficult, let's say. But in a country like Korea, it's even more taboo than it is now. I can't even imagine how taboo it is in this country. So having two psychiatrists in one drama, and both of them are kind of not really good people. First one is kind of a scam psychiatrist. In the end, I have to admit that it does actually, I want to say, a good job with Ryu Suyol to console him and help him and actually give him answers and things to think about. He actually does a good job. But he's still presented as someone who has problems with the law and, you know, someone who is not really trustworthy. In the end, I actually liked him because, yes, he was quite a funny and nice character. But ultimately, it's still a negative image to a psychiatrist. And then the second time we get a psychiatrist and we saw him for the first time, I was like, oh my god, a real psychiatrist, and he's going to see through Ryu Suyol so quickly. And he did, but real psychiatrist, no, because he turns out to be a psychopath. Then, like I said, I think second part of the drama a bit messy, because at first it's kind of really structured, if I want to say. They go after this guy who has been doing kind of corruption and actually killed someone, who is someone, you know, this deputy guy who could one day become a president. They go after this guy, and the murder was linked to some drug, so they have these two to investigate about this drug dealing, who they are, and arrest them. But then, in the middle of the drama, it kind of stops all this after they arrest the deputy. The whole thing around the drug dealing kind of disappears. And we don't even see them, I think, for a few episodes at a time. Not that I was really interested into them, because it's actually something I don't enjoy in these kind of dramas. In this genre is people acting all tough, gangster-like, and with no emotion, and no talking, and always looking the same, or, you know, very mysterious and so cool, and yeah, like the really tough guy or girl. It's really something I don't like. So it was really not a problem not seeing Andre and her, I can't remember her name, but the boss, it was not a problem for me not seeing them. So it's actually a bit funny as a viewer to be so engrossed in such an investigation, finishing it with Andre escaping, going to prison by killing all the cops. We finish it like this, and then we stop seeing them for the longest time, and the story completely changes to something else about the psychiatrist and Childs killing each other's parents. It's confusing, you don't really see the link. At the end, they do add a link because of the little girl that had the drugs on her. But it could have been even without the drug, it wouldn't have changed anything at all. It was just the tiny, tiny, tiny little link to link everything together, but very weak, of a link, in my opinion. I'm not gonna lie, I prefer the whole arc with the kids and the psychiatrist because it's a lot more about mental health and it's a lot more the thing I like, even though it was the most predictable part of the story also, in my opinion. And finally, just before I mention the important part, let's say I think there's kind of a tiny bit of romance in this drama. It's really not much at all. I don't even think we could consider it 1% of the drama. It's so tiny. But the kind of romance they try to put between Ryu Soyol and I can't remember her name, but his co-worker really didn't work at all for me. They had absolutely no chemistry, no romantic chemistry at all. As buddies and, very good friends who worked together, so they have a pretty deep bond. As people like this, yes, I do see a very nice chemistry. But romantically, that's another thing that was predictable when we get to know that they are ex-boyfriend and girlfriends. You had to know they were going to reconcile at some point. But yeah, when they kissed that night and everything, it was really kind of out of the blue, kind of expected. You kind of knew it was going to happen at this moment. Predictable, really no chemistry at all, even at the end in the very last episode, after we get the 1 year later and she tries to ask about it again, about that time when they kissed. And yeah, there was really no chemistry at all. And finally, the elephant, Kei not being a real person, but being a split personality of Ryu Soyol. From the trailer, I didn't expect this at all. I didn't read a summary before going into the drama, but I did after I finished, and it didn't mention this either. I guess it's normal for obvious reasons they didn't. But I was really not expecting that, and while I do like very psychological things, usually kind of dark psychological dramas and these kind of stuff, and why I like watching also about split personalities, even though I do know how it is represented in movies and dramas and TV shows, I know it's not a real representation of how it is in real life. I am completely aware of it, but it doesn't stop me from really enjoying watching it. Even though I really like it, I was really disappointed that it was a case of split personality in this drama, because I was really expecting a really nice relationship between the two of them. I wanted to see two guys getting to be best friends or something like that. They do become like this. They kind of do become best friends, and at the end of the drama, they reach a point where they have a really heartwarming relationship. But the thing is that as soon as you realize that Kei is not a real person and a split personality, you just know that he is going to have to disappear at some point. I mean, as much as likable as he is, and how much of a great duo he makes with Ryu Soyol, split personality at the end of the day is still a disease. It's not normal, and it shouldn't keep this split personality. And I don't know that much about split personality, how it is in real life and everything. So everything I'm going to say is mostly going to be based on what I know from the movies and shows and everything. But this personality is always there to cover something, to help you with something, be it dark or not. It's always there for a reason. So you know that once the reason is gone, the personality has no reason to be anymore. Honestly, I think I only have good things to say about their relationship and how they grow actually kind of together. Well, mostly Ryu Soyol grows with the help of Kei. But while I think I like everything about their relationship and how they grow together, I think it was very strange for me, because I know this kind of split disorder is kind of unreal. It's not depicted as it is really in real life. But in the drama in itself, it felt unreal in the sense that it never felt like he was actually alone. That he was kind of, talking to himself and being two people at the same time. It really got me a moment to get used to it, and I think it's because they had another actor making this split personality of himself. At the end of the day, I kind of got used to it because as their relationship starts to get better and better, and they kind of grow closer and closer and really friends actually, it's not really a problem anymore to have them interact a bit everywhere and kind of be crazy together. But yeah, at the beginning where their relationship is kind of really weird and we could say at exact opposites of each other, it's really weird. And it's to wonder how no one actually realizes that he kind of has a problem. It's a bit like in dramas when there's a ghost and only one person can see this ghost. And they keep talking to the ghost, but no one realizes that these people are kind of weird talking to themselves as if they were talking to people. And it's actually the same case in this drama. Maybe I think to make it more convincing, at least in the first episodes, they should have shown Ryu Soo-yeol alone more, instead of seeing him really talking with Kay. With both actors, for example, in a car, they should have shown him more actually talking to himself and being both people at the same time. I think it would have helped a lot more to see it as real. And to finish, I'm going to mention again how disappointed I was to know that Kay was not a real person, because I knew he was going to have to go, and this is the last thing I want to talk about. While I knew he was going to go, and I was going to be sad, of course, I didn't expect to cry this much when it happened. The scene was really heartbreaking, not really heartbreaking in the sense that it was horrible, but because it was kind of the combination of everything. Ryu Soo-yeol was able to do everything on his own. He really didn't need Kay anymore to be by his side. But at the same time, they had become such best buddies that Ryu Soo-yeol wanted to keep him. He had kind of become his best friend. You know, the guy he could go crazy with, and they understood each other a lot, even though they were very different in nature. So it was really a touching and very heartbreaking moment, especially when Ryu Soo-yeol kind of ran to the door and Kay was there crying. He had tried to go in a very cool manner, but then he was just there crying because he actually didn't want to leave either. And then you had both of them have this big hug and crying together because they actually didn't want to part. Anyway. I think I've never, if rarely, seen such relationship from a split personality. Well, every time I see it, it's quite different from how we saw it in this drama too, so it could explain why. But it was actually really nice, I think, and kind of fresh to see such a relationship between the two of them. I mean, Kay was literally the person, as he said it, like he was Ryu Soo-yeol's hero. He was Ryu Soo-yeol's king. He was only there to help him, to save him. You know, he was just a nice dude. Such a nice guy. Very crazy, I have to admit, very crazy. But it's actually what made his charm, right? So yeah, when they had to separate, it was very, very, very sad moment. I didn't think I was going to cry as much as I did. And I kept hoping until the end that he was actually going to come back some way or another. And when they kind of made you think he did, when they had this conversation with the police woman officer about the kiss, actually, I really thought he was back, but no. And it's to show really how much he missed him, because even 1 year later, he still thinks about him so much. It's just so sad. It's a bit like he lost his best friend. In a sense, it's weird saying that because it was a personality of himself, a part of himself. So it's actually like he was his own best friend. But I think you all know what I mean. And yeah, I was hoping he was going to come back. I mean, I know it's not very right to say such a thing. I mean, it's a disease. Having a split personality is not a good thing to have. So it's a bit weird to say that, yeah, I hoped his personality wouldn't go. But I think for anyone who watched the drama, I'm pretty sure it was the same for everyone. It was too much of a good character, and their friendship was just too endearing, and they were so sweet at the end, really funny together. So yeah, I don't think I'm the only one on this. But yeah, until the end, nope, it didn't come back. But they did try to make it really realize to the viewer at this point that K was not actually gone, that K was still there, but he was completely merged. Now, Ryu Soo-yeol was really one again. And he was still there. With how in the first part of the drama, K gets to kick the deputy in the face. This time, we have Ryu Soo-yeol doing the exact same thing, kind of running down the stairs, laughing like a maniac, and jumping to kick the police commissar in the face with the exact same angle of the camera, the exact same movement, the exact same pose as Kay had in the first few episodes. So they really wanted to show that even though Kay is not physically here anymore, he is still there because he's always been part of Ryu Soo-yeol. So he had always been Ryu Soo-yeol, a part of him. But still, it was very sad. So yeah, that's it for me. To conclude, I think I ended up giving it 6 because I was still very invested in the relationship between Ryu Soo-yeol and Kay. And although it was mostly predictable and way more too classic than I thought it was going to be, I really expected something crazy all the time, or kind of, and actually it's not the majority of the drama at all. So if you haven't watched it, don't expect this because of the trailer. It's more classic than you think it's going to be. But even without that, because of, like I said, the relationship between the two main characters and how actually the story still manages to make you interested even though it is predictable, I still had a nice watch. But yeah, in the end, I think if you're a fan of the genre or if you really like these actors, you could still watch it pretty easily because it's really not that bad. And on these words, that's it for me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!